The Supreme Court is back at work for the first time since Justice Antonin Scalia's death. Thousands attended his funeral in Washington on Saturday. Scalia's son, Paul, led the Mass at the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception, the biggest Catholic church in the nation.
And now the remaining 8 justices are about to hear several cases that could reshape the United States. Chief Legal Correspondent Jan Crawford is with us from the Supreme Court. How exactly will today be different for the remaining justices?
Well, I mean, this is really the start of an uncertain chapter for the Supreme Court. None of these 8 justices have ever served on the Supreme Court without Justice Scalia, and I think it is just hard to imagine what that's going to be like when they take their seats on the bench this morning. His seat, of course, will be empty. They're going to have it covered in this black memorial cloth for the next 30 days. But he was such a dominant presence on that court, whether it was at oral argument or in his opinions. And I think just absorbing the impact of his absence is going to take some time for these justices.
So they will be hearing cases. In terms of what's on the docket now, how will Scalia's absence affect these cases?
Well, I mean, today's cases are pretty run-of-the-mill. I mean, one's a criminal case, one involves government contracts, so they're not like big headline cases. I think the news today is what we're not seeing, which is Justice Scalia. But, starting next week and then throughout the rest of the term, you're going to get into some controversial cases. I mean, next week there's a case involving abortion regulations. And these are the cases that typically divide the justices. It was once 5-4 with Scalia there. He was in a 5-justice majority. But now these cases are going to be probably 4-4, a tie. So then they will essentially mean that the lower court decision will just stand, or the court could decide to reschedule some of those for arguments next year.
Jan, what are your sources telling you about a possible replacement for Justice Scalia?
Well, the president this weekend really started kind of digging down in earnest. The White House had already compiled a list of potential candidates that he could nominate to the Supreme Court. They kind of keep that current in case of an emergency or a tragedy, as we had with Justice Scalia. So he's reviewing those nominees. They're really starting to dig down in earnest. At some point, he'll be able to have interviews with them and then make that crucial nomination. But, Republicans are holding firm, and they're saying they are not going to confirm anyone the president sends up here to the Senate because the court, that 4-4 split, the president could actually move the court to the left. And they say that the stakes are just too high for that, and the next president should get to make that choice.
Jan Crawford at the Supreme Court for us. Thank you, Jan.
Thanks, Webb.